All Rise. All Rise radio show brings exciting and varied legal topics to listeners. The show highlights key legal aspects, legal tips, and information from experts and specialists, featuring lawyers, consultants, economics, and many more. The show touches nearly every aspect of daily life and brings both exciting and entertaining stories, along with helpful tips, such as how to hire the perfect lawyer and how not to waste money. Join me, your host, Ibaa Al Masri. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your show All Rise with your host Ibaa Al Masri. Today we're going to be talking about the labor law. We did talk and we discussed some important aspects last episode regarding the employment contracts, and of course we have lots of information to cover. But today we're going to talk about some important aspects of the labor law. The things we're going to talk about is the origin of labor law here in Saudi Arabia, when it was executed, when it was issued, and who is exempt by the labor law. I mean, who is not involved, and the labor law does not actually cover him or her. What is the trade union, and what about the trade union recognition? What is ma'an qarar, ma'an rasad? What they are, what are they? And what about the part-time work? Some details regarding it. So let's take the best of that time and talk about the labor law. The labor law, which is abbreviated LL, was issued as per the Royal Decree number M51, dated 23rd of Sha'ban 1426 Lil Hijra, and all of its amendment issued as per some royal decrees from 1426 until 1442. So you can tell that it's been amended since then until now. Lots of amendment happened to the labor law here in Saudi Arabia. Also, it's not the only, let's say, origin or source of regulations for laborers. However, another source is the Executive Regulations of the Labor Law, which is abbreviated ERLL once you're reading about it online. And it's issued as per the Ministerial Resolution number 70273, dated 11th of Rabi' al-Thani 1440 Hijra, from the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development, which was previously named as the Ministry of Labor. Okay, so this is the origin. So you can tell that there are two parts of it when you're reading it, because as I told you in a previous episode, it's not all about the lawyers who know about the labor law. It's about everyone. We should all read that labor law, and of course the executive regulation of the labor law. They have all the information that we want because it's there, put in details. We should know. And mashallah, the law is very comprehensive. It has all the information needed. Even if you did not sign that contract, you can tell some of the rights that you could have and some of the responsibilities. And as I mentioned in the last episode, there are some very important elements to be there in the contract when you're signing it. So an employment contract has got some essential information that you need to check before you sign. But now let's go there again, because we mentioned this already. We are going to talk today about who are the workers who are not included in the labor law, because these people are included in other kind of regulations here in Saudi Arabia. We will talk about this shortly. Welcome back. It shall be deemed that all the employees working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are included in the mentioned labor law that I just mentioned, except for the following. First of all, employees working in the public sector and according to the system of civil services issued as per the Royal Decree number M49, or according to other related laws, in addition to those who work in the government's military and judicial sectors. So any employee who works for any of the mentioned sectors and those employment contract states as such will be subject to the provisions of the labor law. Second one are employees who work privately and personally for individuals, such as servants of private houses, family drivers, farmers in private, non-commercial farms, private gardeners, or bodyguards. Different law shall apply to them. The most important of such laws being the regulation of domestic workers and such like, enacted under Cabinet Resolution number 310. Beside that, voluntary employees who work without either financial or moral consideration, who shall be subjected to voluntary work system promulgated by Royal Decree number M70. If a material considered as required for his or her volunteering, the provisions of labor law shall apply. And this is one of the exciting parts. Players and coaches in sport clubs and sports federation shall be subjected to sport laws, who have independent judicial committees to adjudicate their disputes. And that's usually contain all the football players, basket players, because they have their own federations, right? So these federations usually are the regulators for them, especially when it comes to age, because some of them enter the game life and being professional players before they are maybe reaching their 18s. And they have their own disputes, and they have some kind of special regulations that should be related to the game and such like. Other one is sea workers working on a ship with a cargo of less than 500 tons. The last one is non-Saudis workers coming to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to perform specific work for a period not exceeding 2 months. If such work is indefinite or takes more than 2 months, or the period is unspecific, the provisions of labor law shall apply. So let's imagine that a non-Saudi came to Saudi Arabia for consultation or for that job that does not take more than 2 months. We do not have to apply labor law here. He or she just do the work, and then according to the contract that they did, because it's such a limited period of time, not exceeding 2 months, they're going to finish up everything. So they do not actually deserve the compensation and all the details regarding the labor law. If it exceeded 2 months, then this is where the labor law will be applied. And the other one is if it was unspecific time. So we cannot just say, are you coming here only for a limited time, but it's not specified. It should be either not exceeding 2 months, and that would be not regarding to the labor law, or if it exceeds 2 months, that would be this is where we put the labor law as our regulator. All right, coming to you shortly. Welcome back. As I told you, the labor law is comprehensive. It has all the details that you need to know. And I recommend that each and every individual should actually read that labor law in case they might get involved or sign any contract or receive an offer from any entity here in Saudi Arabia. So there are some minimum employment terms and conditions set down by law that employees have to observe. There are many terms and conditions issued by the labor law in detail that relate to regulating employment processes, employment of disabled, employment of non-Saudi, training and rehabilitation, employment contract, disciplinary rules, the duties of both parties, employment contract, terms and conditions thereof, the end of service bonus, annual leave, rest of leave, official holidays, weekends, protection, safety and occupational health and employees, and many other terms related to the protection of women and maternity leave and the environment that must be prepared for them, for the women if they're having any the pregnancy and if they're leaving and returning back. This is what we mean for the environment, and of course for their privacy and for safety, and other special terms related to work in specific places, such as working at sea and in mines and quarries. Actually, when I read mines, I remember the song that we used to learn when we were in the elementary school. Do you remember it? Then when we used to sing in a cavern, in a canyon, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er, and his daughter, yes, Clementine. I return to you shortly. Welcome back. So we get lots of questions, especially from non-Arab expats, about the trade union recognition. So just for you to know, the trade union is an organized association of workers in a trade, group of trades, a profession, formed to protect their rights and interests. So you can say like the bar of the lawyers or the engineers all together, like an entity that would be there for these type of employees to take some mutual interest and protect their rights, according to what I just mentioned. So do we have this in Saudi Arabia? Actually, trade unions do not apply in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. However, in this regard, the legislative authorities have given much protection to employees under the labor law, as well as involving the labor court, which is abbreviated usually LC, which provides its services in a complete and electronic form, and which has full independence from the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development. Through the labor court, an employee is able to obtain his or her rights as quickly as possible compared to other courts. In addition to the above, and in this regard, the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development has launched 2 platforms that are easy to access, and we're going to talk about them shortly. But now, let me mention the importance of labor court. It is, guys, it's a very important tool and it's very easy to access. we know that lots of dispute might happen in the workplace, right? As an employee, you might think that there are some rights that you deserve, a compensation that you need to take, the end of service, the salaries, the pending salaries, the vacation, unlawful decisions happen to you. It's very accessible to go through the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development and go from there to the labor court. It is an easy process, really swift procedure, and actually doesn't need a lawyer. A lawyer would help you to tell you how to write down your memo, what are the things that you can actually request, what are the things you cannot claim. But if you want to do it on your own, it's super easy. You can do it in 1 hour, actually, from the comfort of your home. Just make sure that all the information that you're submitting are correct, and the claims that you are requesting as a plaintiff are also clear, and they are sharp, and you don't have any, changes or uncertainty, because that might end up you losing that case. Returning back to you shortly. Welcome back. As mentioned before, do you know that as an employee or as anyone who is affected by the labor law or who went actually to the workplace, your voice is heard by two platforms. First platform is Ma'an Qarar. You can just as easy as you can go and write Ma'an Qarar, which is M-A-3-A-N, because 3 is apparently Ain in Arabic. Qarar, Q-A-R-A-R. What is Ma'an Qarar? It's a platform for monitoring all comments and proposals sent by citizens and residents regarding the draft decisions announced by the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development before their formal adoption. So once they are drafts, decisions are draft, you can actually give a feedback about this decision, which is qarar in Arabic, and your voice is heard. And that is in order to open community participation when making any decision. The other platform is called Ma'an Rasd, which is M-A-3-A-N-R-A-S-D. You can just write it on Google, and then you'll get the full website to get into that platform. So it's a website apparently. It's a platform that gives the ability to report any violation or corruption in the services of the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development, which may affect others and the ministry itself. Guys, what I say is this is a big transparency from the Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development. It's just getting everyone involved. Citizens and residents, everyone is heard. So if you have an opinion, go ahead, use these platforms, and your voice is actually heard. Even the decisions, you might affect that, and they might not actually go for full adoption because you said so. This is a great opportunity for everyone to be heard, to be listened to, and to have an input about what's happening around us. Actually, once I knew about this platform, I was thrilled. It's a great, great, great step. Welcome back. For the last point, allow me to mention the atypical workers, such as those working part-time. Sometimes there is a confusion between who works for a part-time or full-time job, because as known that the labor law is meant to cover the full-time workers, but actually there is some part of it covers the part-time. Sometimes there is something called a fixed term contract, or as temporary agency worker. They have actually additional protection, so because they are not that much covered by the labor law. However, according to Article 120 of labor law and Article 27 of the executive regulations of the labor law, provisions, only part we mean, of the labor law shall not apply to those who do not work full-time, which is, what is not full-time, is less than 24 hours per week. Because, as for your information, the full-time job should not exceed the 48 hours per week. So this is very important. The employer should not exceed the 48 hours of the employee working per week, and not more than 5 hours, back to back without break. Just for you to know, 48 hours are the maximum per week. So part-time would be less than 24 hours per week. And as an exemption to that, the following provisions of the labor law shall be applied to them. So now we're going to talk about things that is coming from the labor law but is applied to part-timers. First one is the necessity of making a contract. So you still need a contract. If you're a part-timer and you're here in Saudi Arabia, you still need a contract. If you're not actually covered by the labor law, doesn't mean that you do not need that contract. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, if you're not having a contract, that doesn't mean that you do not deserve your right. That doesn't mean that you do not get paid, or you cannot actually request that payment according to the actual work that you're doing, just by providing some evidence of what you do, by transactions, by emails, by letters, by the nature of work, you still deserve a compensation, salary, whatever, everything that the labor law offers. Second one is determining the period of contract. It shall be not opened, while it may be renewed for a similar period or another time frame agreed upon. So we cannot say it's indefinite or unlimited, because that is not applicable for non-Saudis at least. So that goes for the fact that if it was unlimited, it expires when the work permit for the non-Saudi, when we reach the end of the work permit for non-Saudi, and for the Saudi it can be actually unlimited on indefinite. Third one is determining working hours, provided that the said working hours shall not be less than half of the usual working hours. As I said, 48 is the full-time, less than 24 and less than 24 is the part-time. All provisions of overtime for workers shall be applied as stipulated in the labor law. And what is mentioned by labor law? Usually the overtime is 150% per hour. So if you're taking 100 riyal per hour, and overtime is 150. This is a very important information for everyone. The fourth one is provisions of the working system related to weekly rest, leave, and official holidays. Also, provisions of localization for Saudi workers, provisions of safety, health, and work injuries. Just for you to remember, these are the terms and the clauses that are coming from the labor law and actually implemented with a part-timer. Last one is the consequential compensation for the remaining period of the contract due to unlawful termination by either party, unless the contract contains otherwise. So you know that limited contract, if the employer had an unlawful decision of terminating it, the employee deserves the rest of the salaries. This is also applied to the part-time job. If you're having a part-time job, you should know that this is your right. You still deserve all the salaries until the end of that contract. And of course, the litigation provisions, which are related to the labor court. Anything that is escalated to the labor court due to full-time job is the same when it comes to the part-time job. So if you have any dispute and you want to escalate it to the labor court, you can do this even if you're a part-timer. And with that, we are done with our episode of All Rise today. Remember, our episodes are on Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. In the future, we might start to have some guests for you, dear listeners. We're going to spice things up, and we're going to ask them really good questions. So stay tuned with us. This is me, your host, Ibaa Al Masri with All Rise. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. I'll see you next episode.